Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome my co-host from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Servino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Mike. What about you?
Oh, I'm doing better than Tom Coughlin, who now no longer has a job. Do you think this is a good move by the Jaguars?
You know, I think so. It really wasn't working out for Tom Coughlin and the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's not a guy, especially in today's society. He comes from a military family and a military background, and he rubs people the wrong way. And I think it's when you're not having successful seasons, that style gets old quick.
Yeah, I think probably the last nail in the coffin was the Nick Foles thing.
Yeah, that was. That was a bad move, a big-time contract signing. You owe him a lot of money now, and you have a guy in Gardner Minshew on a rookie deal and outplaying Foles.
Yeah, and, you know, people that want out of Cleveland. Maybe Tom Coughlin could go to Cleveland. What do you think?
That would never work out.
It never works out for anybody that goes to Cleveland.
There is a need for a culture change in Cleveland.
Yes, there is.
But I don't know if Coughlin, and I just don't know if that would work just because of how poorly that franchise is run. I think Tom Coughlin would want maybe more control than Cleveland ownership wants to give.
Well, how about this, though? I think also he could change the culture by his attitude and what he wants everybody to do. But my question is he capable of pulling it off? Because he kind of screwed the pooch in Jacksonville with these player personnel decisions.
I mean, what decisions are you talking about?
Nick Foles.
I mean, aside from Nick Foles.
And then Jalen Ramsey, who wants to get out. Who did they draft the last 2 years?
Oh, didn't they draft the offensive lineman this year?
Yeah, I mean, I just think overall, when you look at it, I don't think he necessarily did a bang-up job player personnel-wise either.
No. I mean, I don't know if he was there for Bortles or not, but if he was there for Bortles and he has that and Foles on his resume,
so he didn't get there until 2017. Yeah. Coughlin didn't. But all right.
Do you think he's done in the NFL? Do you think this tarnishes his resume?
I don't know.
I mean, I would say Tom Coughlin's still a Super Bowl. Not a Super Bowl, a Hall of Fame worthy coach.
Oh, he is. He won 2 Super Bowls, and both of them were upsets. The first one much bigger than the second one. And also, you got to look at this. He went to Jacksonville, and within a few years, had an expansion team in the AFC Championship game.
I think that gets so overlooked.
Oh, it gets overlooked big time, and now it's not as hard to do when you get to the mid-'90s as it was in the mid-'60s. But still, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. And how about this? Is it a bigger accomplishment to get Jacksonville to the championship game in their third year than it is to even win the Super Bowl?
Maybe, maybe not, because didn't the Panthers also have success early?
Well, they both made the championship. Well, 96, the Panthers made the championship game.
Right.
So that was their second year? Second or third year, somewhere around there. So, either way, he has a great career, and I think he's in his 70s. I mean, that's going to also preclude. He'll probably work at a front office for somebody if he wants to continue to work, but I don't know that he'll be the man in charge anymore.
No. Maybe in an advisory role.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and look at this week's games. And we're going to start off with 1 o'clock tomorrow as the Houston Texans will travel to Tampa Bay to take on Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Huge game for Houston. Tampa's hot, though. I mean, this looks to me to be a competitive football game.
Yeah, and Tampa's all sorts of banged up at wide receiver. I don't know if there's something in the water in Tampa Bay, but in a matter of 2 weeks, you lose Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Scotty Miller, all two hamstring injuries. Not even different injuries, all hamstring injuries. Um, but despite it, Jameis Winston has managed to pass for 456 and 4 touchdowns in back-to-back games. He's one of the uh, hottest the hottest quarterbacks in the league right now. He's doing it without any sort of a running game. And Rashad Perriman and a lot of people, especially in the fantasy world, they kill me for talking about Rashad Perriman even last week before he went off for the 3 touchdowns. And I think what gets overlooked that he is a former first-round pick of the Baltimore Ravens. And now that he can stay healthy, we are starting to see why he was a first-round pick. So I think there's enough there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to actually win this game.
So are you picking Tampa Bay to win a game?
I'm going to go Tampa Bay in the upset.
I'm going to go with Houston, even with Perryman. I just think Deshaun Watson has a tendency to find a way to get things done. And I'm going to go with Watson here, but I think this is going to be a really tight game. The middle game of the Saturday 3-game set, we'll call it a triumvirate. That's the word I'm looking for. Is the Buffalo Bills traveling to New England to battle the Patriots. The Bills are a 6.5-point dog in this game. And I think if I was betting this game, I would take Buffalo in the points here because I think this is going to be a much closer game than that point spread indicates.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game. But really, yes, there's an outside chance Buffalo can somehow win this division if the Patriots completely nosedive. But I would say because of the remaining schedule of New England, even if they do lose this game, they're still going to win the division. So I question how much Sean McDermott is going to show New England because there's a chance that these two teams meet again in the wild card round.
Well, I think
so. Yes, I would still take Buffalo to cover, but I think New England wins this game by a very short margin.
I kind of disagree. I think McDermott's got to go to win this game. I think you got to make a statement to New England that you can beat them. And I think you make a statement to your own team then. I mean, you look at the Giants, and we talk about Super Bowl 42 all the time, but the defining moment for the Giants in that season was a loss to the New England Patriots, 38-35. And I think with McDermott, I think you go balls out to win this game and try to make a statement here for if you play New England again. Because that statement doesn't.
But are you going to show your hand? Like, are you going to do maybe a play that that you can only use once? Almost like, are you going to use your Philly special here, or are you going to save it?
Well, we've also seen that the Philly special can be about 10 different plays, and you got to win this game if you're Buffalo. I think. I mean, to really be a Super Bowl contender, they need to get the win here. And we've seen weirder things than Miami beating New England in the last game of the season because Miami has done this before when nobody expected it. Miami plays hard, and you never know when Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to have one of those games the last game of the season.
Yeah, and it does seem like Miami does have a knack for upsetting New England like once a year.
Yeah, and remember this. There's a lot to be said to make the Patriots try to win that last game because Julian Edelman is beat up. And if all of a sudden you're Buffalo and you lose this game, New England, if they want, they can rest Edelman. They can rest Brady a little bit that last week of the season, and they're more prepared when they go to the playoffs.
Just one note on this game with Julian Edelman. All the reports that I'm seeing that he is going to, he is expected to play, especially after he played last week. But he does look a lot better. Which could be significant. He looks better than he did last week because if you watch that game and you would see that Julian Edelman, he plays hurt a lot, but he legitimately did not look himself. Like he was in pain. Like the pain, the stat line didn't tell the whole story.
Yeah, and when I picked this game, I think I'm going to go with the Patriots to win a close game. But like I said, I would take the Bills in the 6.5 points.
Yeah, same here.
All right, next up, the last game of the triumvirate of games on the NFL Network tomorrow. The Los Angeles Rams will travel to San Francisco to battle the 49ers, and both of them them are coming off games where they didn't look that good. What's the San Francisco injury situation look like?
It does look like they're going to get Richard Sherman back, but they're still a little bit banged up. But getting Sherman back is a huge boost.
All right, I like the Niners to win this game. I like them to win this game fairly big because I don't think the Rams are very good. And like we talked going into the Cowboys game, it looked like the Rams had turned things around, but it's not like they were doing it against great competition. So I'm going to go with the 49ers to rebound and win this game.
Yeah, that Cowboys game, that was significant. The loser of that game, like if the Rams ended up blowing out Dallas, like I thought was going to happen, it was going to just end the season. And the same thing going the other way. And Dallas was the ones who not only they were victorious, but it just seemed like they just ran the will out of the middle of that defense. So, yeah, the 49ers coming off of a tough loss. I don't take anything away because, when the Falcons hit back-to-back last-second throws, because that Hooper one was a touchdown. It gets called back, and then Julio gets it. It just wasn't meant to be that Sunday for the 49ers, and I think they're going to come back and finish this year strong, starting with the Rams.
Yeah, no matter who you are, facing Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Austin Hooper, those guys, you can get upset in that situation.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
They're not the only team that that's
and that
happened
defense
to.
isn't a slouch either. I mean, they can get lit up at times, but they have some big-time players.
Yeah.
It's just, like a Vic Beasley's a big-time player. He's inconsistent.
All right, let's go ahead and look at the Sunday games. And we're going to start off with the Detroit Lions at the Denver Broncos. I don't know why, but that's what we're going to do. Detroit and Denver. What do you think, Anthony?
This is the battle of the insignificant. I think this game does mean more to the Denver Broncos because of Drew Lock. Drew Lock is showing a little bit of spark. They have some young offensive weapons that I like. Cortland Sutton should have been voted to the Pro Bowl. Not like it matters, a popularity contest anyway. They have a couple of good running backs, and this should be a matchup where this offense comes alive and this defense plays shutdown football, and Denver should dominate at home.
Yeah, they should. And I think Drew Lock was absolutely terrible last week, though, Anthony.
I mean, he played well. Is he better than what they had?
He was like 18.
Is he better than Brandon Allen and Joe Flacco?
It doesn't take a whole hell of a lot.
And to the credit of Drew Lock against the Texans in Houston, he won that game and went toe-to-toe with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, one game, though. Just like one bad game doesn't mean anything either. I'm just saying that we need to wait and see. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, for all intents and purposes, could get close to locking up a playoff spot with a win at the Jets. Of course, the Jets beat the Cowboys earlier in the year at home, so you never know, Anthony.
You bring that up like 3 times an episode.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. It's now a drinking game in colleges, from what I hear.
So what's the?
Well, who do you think's going to win? Pittsburgh at the Jets.
I think Pittsburgh runs away with it. They have the better defense. There's the whole Le'Veon Bell revenge game narrative that people can try to play on, but Le'Veon Bell doesn't care.
No.
He just wants to get out of this season healthy and figure out who he's going to play for in 2020. I think Pittsburgh defense dominates, and are they still alive in the playoffs? If they win the last 2, Pittsburgh they win out and the ball bounces their way.
No, Pittsburgh's in it. They win out.
They're in it still, even with last week's loss.
The Titans lost also.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
So, and the Titans.
So yeah, I think they're gonna still make that push.
Yeah, because they win this game, it should put them a game ahead of the Titans because the Titans are going to play, and that's the game we're going to talk about next. I'm going to go with the Steelers also. I think it'll be a tight game. I don't think that they're capable of really blowing anybody out. Then next up, the Saints will battle the Titans. Now, is that in Tennessee? It is, isn't it?
This is going to be, huh?
Yeah, it's at Tennessee, and this is a huge game for the Titans. The Titans need to win this game badly. The Saints need to win just to keep battling for that home field advantage. I don't know. What do you think on this one? I mean, this game is closer to me than what I think most people think it is.
I do. I think this is a must-win for both sides for two different reasons. The Saints have it locked up, but they're playing for playoff positioning. The Titans are still trying. That was a big loss last week, and they're still fighting for their playoff lives. I'm not counting. I don't think this game is a lock to go in the Saints' direction. I think that Ryan Tannehill could be the comeback player of the year, probably is the comeback player of the year. You know they can run the ball with Derrick Henry. They can run the ball against anybody with Derrick Henry as long as they give him enough touches. A.J. Brown, the rookie receiver, has really emerged in the second half and should be in rookie of the year conversations, even though he probably isn't. Back-to-back big-time games, and we know that you can beat that Saints secondary with big play, deep threat receivers. I'm going to go Tennessee in the upset.
All right.
I think it'll be a shootout. It's not going to be close.
I'm going to go with the Saints. I think this. I think what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see Drew Brees come out. The Saints are going to get up, touch a couple touchdowns. That'll limit what the Titans can do on the run, on the ground game. I think the Saints end up winning this game something like 28-17. Next up, the Carolina Panthers at the Indianapolis Colts. Who are the starting quarterbacks in this game, Anthony? Anthony?
Yes.
Panthers, Colts. Who are the quarterbacks in this game?
It is going to be Will Grier and Jacoby Brissett. At one time, it could have been Cam Newton and Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Well, instead
so
of
the schedule makers had it right looking ahead.
Well, instead of having one good quarterback, we've got none. Because Andrew Luck's really good, but Cam Newton's not. I would say just because Jacoby Brissett's there, I'll give the Colts the advantage. But it will be interesting to me because a lot of people we're high on Will Grier coming out of West Virginia. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, and especially if all of a sudden Will Grier plays well the last 2 weeks of the season.
I think even if he does play well, they have to do their due diligence with evaluating what they have at quarterback because you already know what you have in Kyle Allen. You know what you have in Cam. And now you're going to see what you have in Will Grier, and they're going to go into this offseason with decisions to make. But this game should be dominated by both of those running backs on either side, Christian McCaffrey and Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack gets a great matchup against the Panthers defense that can't stop any running back right now. And Christian McCaffrey's Christian McCaffrey, and they really should lean both sides with the quarterback issues they have, should be leaning on these running backs. So this could be relatively you would think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but with the way these defenses, they're really bad, surprisingly, and this could potentially be a shootout that nobody's going to expect.
Or care about. So you picking the Colts?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Colts.
Yeah, me also.
Hesitantly going to Colts.
All right.
But it could easily go the other way.
All right, next up, the game of the week. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Miami Dolphins. The Bengals can clinch the number one pick here, Anthony. Will they?
Bengals, Dolphins. It's in Miami. It's a Ryan Fitzpatrick revenge game, but what isn't a Ryan Fitzpatrick revenge game? He's been around so long. I actually like Miami at home to help the Bengals clinch the top pick.
Yeah, I hope Miami wins. I'm going to pick Miami just because I think Brian Flores is a very good football coach. And I think O.P. Taylor's a joke. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. This is a revenge game because Cleveland went to Baltimore early in the season and beat them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. The Ravens get revenge here?
Yeah, I think the Ravens, some people think, well, do the Ravens have a lot to play for? Regardless of what they have to play for, because the Browns were one of the 3 teams that beat them. Do they have 2 losses? I think they're going to come out firing. I think they're going to want to make a statement to Cleveland because they want to make a statement to Cleveland because they can.
I think this. I think the Ravens win the game because the Cleveland Browns, I think half that team's already packed and looking for a way out. So it's a typical Browns season. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Atlanta Falcons. Anthony, I'm just going to go with the Falcons here because of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones.
Yeah, the Jaguars are just one of those teams where they packed it in, especially defensively. They can't get Leonard Fournette going. Gardner
it's hard to say they packed it in. They did beat Oakland in Oakland last week.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just they're not the Jaguars that I expected. I had the Jaguars winning that division, if you remember, in the
I
preseason.
remember.
And really, a week or two after Jalen Ramsey, it seemed like they were going to stay afloat without Ramsey. They just collapsed.
Yeah, I don't think the reason they
And
collapsed
beating
was
Oakland and
Jalen
Oakland
Ramsey.
at this point, what does that say?
Yeah,
This isn't the same Oakland team from the middle of the year where they look like they can make a run.
I think it is the same Oakland team. I think they just got hot, things fell the right way, and they won some games, and then it turned around. Next up, the New York Giants will travel to Washington to battle the Redskins, and this is a terrible game, but it is an interesting one to pick.
Wait, you broke up there. What game were we on?
Giants Redskins.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Jones is officially getting the start, so the Eli Manning era is ended for the second time this season, even though he did get a win last week. I think they're right for putting Daniel Jones back. Just the time off will be good for him. I think Daniel Jones comes out and plays well, and I think the Giants are going to win this game. We finally saw some life out of Saquon Barkley. The receivers were clicking, even though it was with Eli. But you would assume that Daniel Jones is better than Eli just because he's a little bit more mobile.
I wouldn't. I don't think Daniel Jones is any good at all. I'm going
I
to
think
take the
he's better than
Redskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
I think he is too. I'm going to take the Redskins though because I think that the Redskins have a better defense than the Giants, which is not a stretch for any team. So I'm going to go with the Skins because really I don't know that I think Daniel Jones is any better than Dwayne Haskins. I don't think either one of them is any good, to tell you the truth. But I can tell you this: Dwayne Haskins has looked a little bit better each week the last 3 weeks.
You're right, and he's finally clicking with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, so I wouldn't count the Redskins out yet, at least not for this game. Next up, the Oakland Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm just going to go ahead and say the Chargers are going to win this because the Raiders have been terrible for the last month.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers too. They have more talent right now. The defense, I think, two of the most underrated secondaries this season have been the Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. So all things considered, with Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow is returning, they're your two top wide receivers on the outside. I just think the Chargers are more talented personnel-wise in Oakland right now. They should win this game at home.
All right, next up, the Cardinals will travel to Seattle to play the Seahawks. I think this game is like a 10-point spread, line-wise. I think I'd take the Cardinals into points here, but I think the Seahawks will win the game.
I like Seattle to win, and this could potentially be a Seahawk domination. I'm getting a lot of questions in my fantasy show and from my fantasy football followers about Kyler Murray in this game. And he's not the same Kyler Murray as we saw early. It seems like he hit that rookie wall and kind of regressed in the past 3 or 4 games. This is going to be his first trip to the 12th man, and that could potentially eat him alive.
I don't think it will. I think Kyler Murray is the kind of kid that's going to step up to that. I think they'll still lose the game by around 10 points, but next up, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Chicago Bears.
I'm actually intrigued by this game. I've been intrigued by the way Mitchell Trubisky has been playing football.
He was terrible last week.
Right, but we talked about this on the show with Sam the other day. In a collective, 4 or 5 week period, he's been better than what he's been in the first 8 weeks of the season.
I don't think he has. I think their schedule.
The first 8 weeks of the season, they could not score points. And I hate defending Mitchell Trubisky, but this is not the Bears of last year where they had Jordan Howard and Tarek Cohen controlling this game at the line of scrimmage running the football. They cannot run the ball, so it's all on Trubisky, and it's exposed him because he wasn't a very good quarterback to begin with.
He wasn't very good last year either, and he's still not very good. And last week, he put up 13 points against the first good team he's faced in a while.
Kansas City is going to win this game, but I'm anxious to see how Trubisky plays. And I think a big reason why Trubisky's numbers are a little bit more padded, because Anthony Miller, he started the year banged up. He had off-season surgery, was probably injured for half the season, and he really made a nice run. The second-year wide receiver.
The Chiefs will
I
win.
think this is going to be a closer game than what people think.
Chiefs by double digits. There's no way the Bears can hold the Chiefs under 27 points. And there's no way the Bears can score more than 17 to 20 points. So I think you end up with like a 34 to 17 game.
If
That
Trubisky
the Chiefs are still
somehow,
playing for something, and the Bears aren't.
if Trubisky ends up scoring, let's say if he keeps this a 7-point game and Trubisky has big numbers, where do you think Sam has him in power? That's what I'm anxious to see, because we had to put Trubisky, once we got to that tier of bad quarterbacks, he was at least the leader of that tier.
Well, he's right around 20, wasn't he?
Yeah, the leader of the bad.
Okay. Next up, we've got our two probably games of the week, and we're going to start off with the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys will go to Philadelphia to battle the Philadelphia Eagles, who will basically have Carson Wentz and 43 city workers in Philadelphia playing against the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think here, Anthony?
I'm very interested in this game. I don't think it's a lock for the Cowboys. And even though they have the more healthier team and they have the personnel, I think a big reason why this defense has collapsed this year is because of Leighton Vander Esch, and Sean Lee is no longer the young Sean Lee. Yes, he's staying healthy now for the first time in his career, but it's kind of like bad timing. The Eagles, it all depends on what they do with running the football with Miles Sanders. He had a monster game last week for the first time all year. If you have to get Miles Sanders going, you have to mix in Boston Scott because he's like the new Darren Sproles for that team. You get those running backs going, I think they can keep up. But if Dallas gets Zeke going, and Zeke has owned the Eagles have never beat the Cowboys when Zeke has been in the lineup. It's going to be a long day. And Dak Prescott, people are worried about the shoulder. He's been saying he's going to play, even though he's been limited in practice, and Cooper Rush is taking the reps. I don't think Dak needs these reps. I think this is more about having Cooper Rush ready just in case.
So, are you picking the Cowboys?
Yeah, absolutely am picking the Cowboys. Okay. And just like Troy said, if the Cowboys get in, nobody wants to play the Cowboys.
Yeah, they do. Why would you not want to play the Cowboys? So you would rather go to New Orleans? I mean, is there a team in the NFC playoffs?
Do you think they're?
Wait a second. No, this is horse crap. You cannot sit here and tell me that you'd rather host Dallas than you would Green Bay, New Orleans, San Francisco, Seattle, Minnesota. Come on, Anthony.
I just think that this isn't going to be like an easy out. Dallas won't be. I think
it's the playoffs. Nobody's
the
an easy
playoffs.
out.
I think anybody can beat anybody.
No, they can't. Dallas can't.
If Dallas plays the way that they're capable of playing, they can beat anybody.
No, they can't.
And anybody can beat them.
They cannot, because this is the only thing I can go off of is what I've seen. This year, did they play Minnesota?
Yes.
Did they win or lose?
They barely lost.
They lost. It ain't no barely. They lost. They lost at home.
You know what? They went toe-to-toe with New England in New England.
Goody for them.
Now
listen.
The New England and the Vikings game.
Hold on. What they do
New England and the Vikings
Bay?
Game, if Jason Garrett was competent, Dallas should have won.
What did they do against Green Bay?
They got blown out.
Okay. They got blown out at home by Green Bay. They got beaten at home by Minnesota. They got beaten by the Saints. They didn't play the 49ers. So who were we missing? Did they play Seattle?
No, but they own Seattle.
So they don't own Seattle. I mean, this is the thing that is completely stupid, Anthony. How do they own Seattle if they have not played them this year?
I think they've beaten Seattle the past 3 times.
What do the past three times have to do with this year?
They haven't played yet.
Tell me this. 3 years ago, did they shut down Chris Carson?
I don't. Was Chris Carson even healthy 3 years ago?
I don't even know that he was on the Seahawks 3 years ago, and that's kind of
my point.
He
was on the Seahawks 3 years ago. I just don't know if he was healthy.
Yeah. The Seattle offensive line has played better this year. Receiver-wise, is Seattle better now than what they were last year?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe,
Okay, I
yes,
just
maybe.
don't see how you can claim that you own a team if you haven't played them this year.
Okay, they don't. They all right.
I mean, everything is different. But I can tell you this: Minnesota, Green Bay, and New Orleans all own the Cowboys' ass. And two of the three owned it in Dallas, in Jerry's world.
No, I mean, you're right there.
Okay, so I would like to
Two
get
of the
this straight.
three were
I would like to
losses
get this
by a
straight right
combined
now.
what? 5 points?
Philadelphia.
9 points?
Philadelphia is the team I would least like to play in the playoffs if you give me a shot to play Philly or Dallas. Now, I think Dallas will probably win this game, but I would much rather not play Philadelphia, and I would rather
Why?
play Dallas.
Why?
Because one simple fact: Carson Wentz is a Philadelphia Eagle, and Carson Wentz is the kind of quarterback that can put his team on his back and win the game on his own.
I've been liking Carson Wentz more and more. I was never a Carson Wentz guy because the guy is always banged up and has always missed time, except for this year. But through all the adversity, I do not put a single thing in this season on Carson Wentz. If anything, he's doing the best with what he has to. He's playing with, like you said, city workers. And Carson Wentz, there was 3 games where Carson Wentz put the ball in Nelson Aguilar's hands. Was it a game against New England, or it was a game where Aguilar dropped it in the end zone? I think there were 2 he dropped in the end zone.
Yeah.
And that Carson went through a perfect ball, and Philly would have won. So I think, at least you're not going to Doug Peterson.
Well, come on, I'll go to Doug Peterson in a
heartbeat. Living off of that Super Bowl win.
Oh, yeah, he's living off that Super Bowl win. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How can you live off a Super Bowl win? A Super Bowl win is
Doug Peterson
what
hasn't
makes
been a
you
very
great.
good coach since that Super Bowl win.
He hasn't?
He's been extremely mediocre.
That's bullshit. How has he been extremely
mediocre?
People
hype Doug Peterson up.
Wait a second.
Like
last year, he took a team that looked dead in the water and took them within a touchdown in New Orleans of being in a championship game for the second straight year. This year, with, as you said, a bunch of city workers missing most of his best players, he is in position right now to beat Dallas and win the division. But the only thing he's ever done concerning you is he won the Super Bowl. We're going to ignore the run to make the playoffs last year, the winning the first round playoff game in Chicago, and then just barely losing in New Orleans.
I mean, in Chicago against a high school quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky.
Really? That high school quarterback named Mitchell Trubisky.
And that's
wait a second.
I know you're not a big Trubisky. At least I'm giving Trubisky a little bit of credit.
Let's give you this. Now, that high school quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, what has he done now? He has owned the Dallas Cowboys this year.
Here we go. I can't say anything.
I mean, you guys went to Chicago against a high school quarterback. You got bitch slapped bad. Score wasn't as close as it looked.
They did.
So, Doug Peterson, all I know is this. Over the last 3 years, he's won the Super Bowl, he's made it to the divisional playoffs, and now he's playing for a division championship again. And to think that Doug Peterson is not a huge advantage over Jason Garrett is just basically sticking your head up your own ass and,
I never said he was an advantage over Jason. All I said I'm happy is that you went Carson Wentz and not Doug Peterson.
I'll go both because Carson Wentz is superior to Dak Prescott, and Doug Peterson is whatever. There's never been a time 11 weeks into a season where people thought Dak Prescott was a Pro Bowler. I do like Dak.
You even said Dak is the best quarterback from that draft class. You wrote that.
I know. I'm saying right now Carson Wentz is playing at a much higher level. This is not 3 or 4 years ago.
Of course, he's better than a one-armed Dak.
A one-armed Dak? Now we got to make excuses. Now, I'm pretty sure they gave him an MRI. Is he going to play in this game?
Yes, he is, because
then there's nothing wrong with him. My daddy always told me, if you walk on a field, you don't have any excuses anymore because you're saying that you're good enough to win that game by walking on that field. So shut up and be a man.
And that's exactly what Dak Prescott's going to do.
No, he's not, because he's already told people he was getting an MRI, and you just made an excuse for him. And if he was in Tangidak, it wouldn't matter if he had arms. He'd figure out a way to throw the ball with his mouth and win the game.
He might have to.
And Tangidak, just admit it. Ever since you've called him in Tangidak, he hasn't been. I rest
I
my
don't know.
case.
I still think it will make for a great T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, we could do that too. We have the capabilities. If you can give me a design, we can make that T-shirt and sell it.
You put Dak Prescott's face on RoboCop's body. There you go. It's in Tangidak.
Yeah. But we'll do that. Make that picture and we'll do it. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota to play the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins against Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has underperformed compared to what people expect of him. Kirk Cousins has overperformed this year compared to what people have expected of him. He even beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas because Kirk Cousins owns the Cowboys this year. So, who do you like here, Anthony?
I'm torn on this game, but it's in Minnesota. There's probably not going to be Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison might miss the game, so they could be running the ball with Mike Boone. On the other side, you have the Packers with an underperforming, like you said, Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think Green Bay pulls it out.
Yeah. The missing the running backs thing is what gets me. How long is Cook going to be out, did they say?
Possibly a week. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think they're at the point to where if they win this game, we could see Dalvin Cook back week 17, but if they lose, you might have to shut him down. It's one of those situations. Possibly.
Yeah. And really, I mean, this game is not that big of a game unless the Lions could somehow beat the Packers in week 17. This is kind of like the Bills-Patriots game, if you know what I mean. You could tie for the division, but you're still losing a wild card, and the other team's still got to play a terrible team at the end of the season. I'm going to go with Minnesota. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins to have a big game and to somehow win this game. And Minnesota's still probably going to be the 5 seed, which means that they will travel to Dallas or Philadelphia. So if I'm Minnesota, I don't mind that bad.
No, especially because to Kirk Cousins' credit, they are both places that Kirk Cousins has been used to playing through the years.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins owns the Dallas Cowboys, so going there wouldn't bother him. Wouldn't you say that this year Kirk Cousins owns the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, yeah.
Wouldn't you also say that Sam Darnold and the New York Jets do too?
Never going to hear the end of it.
Oh, well, y'all lost to the Jets. My Cincinnati Bengals beat the Jets. I just wanted to bring that up. We blew the Jets out, actually.
So does that mean you also beat the Cowboys?
Yeah, that means we're better than the Cowboys if you go by that. And there's nothing. You know what? If the Bengals played the Cowboys right now, I like the Bengals' chances.
Oh, stop.
What? They both have 10-year-old head coaches that don't know what the hell they're doing. They both have quarterbacks that are usually underrated. They both have really good running games. The Cowboys do have a semblance of a defense, which the Bengals don't. Y'all got some wide receivers. But, yeah, the Bengals and Cowboys are pretty much the same team. Anything else you want to talk about before we go, Anthony?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. You want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face-Off, and we can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms.
All right, guys, same thing with The Grueling Truth. You can follow us at Grueling Truth. Today at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll have the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show with myself and Ken Sterling, previewing the Indiana-Notre Dame game tomorrow. But we're going to wrap it up. You can hear us wherever you find any kind of podcast. You'll find The Grueling Truth and the FF Face-Off. So, for Anthony Servino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.